Hello friends, and welcome back to another fun and free crochet video tutorial. Today I'll be making this soft and drapey button-up cardigan with inner pockets. And of course, it has to be in pink because I'm supporting breast cancer awareness this month. Now, if you're new to my channel, do follow me by clicking that subscribe button to get in on all the latest crochet patterns right here. To start off this pattern, let's talk about the materials. I'm using Kobu by Lion brand in the color pink. It is also the approved yarn brand by Knitted Knockers. They are a non-profit organization which supports and donates their craft to breast cancer survivors. Now we'll also need a 4.5mm crochet hook, some stitch markers, a measuring tape, a tapestry needle, pair of scissors, and of course we'll need any kind of button of your choice. These buttons that I have here are about 3 centimeters in diameter, which you can easily find in any craft store. To start our pattern, we'll need to measure the length of the cardigan that we're aiming for. I'm making a size medium, so I'll be chaining 145 chains for the front and back. I've placed a link to all the other sizes in the description box below. Once you've completed all your chains, now to start the next row, we'll chain 1 and we'll insert our hook into that second chain from the hook. We'll draw up a loop, yarn over and pull through both loops. That will be our first single crochet. We'll continue working single crochet stitches along the chains, and I'll meet you back here at the end of this row. Once you've completed all your single crochet stitches, you'll chain 1 and turn your work. For the next row, we'll be working half double crochet stitches. So you'll yarn over, insert your hook into the first stitch, drop a loop, yarn over and pull through all loops. That's your first half double crochet stitch. You'll continue working half double crochet stitch all the way across. On your last stitch, chain 1 and turn your work. This will be your first set of rows. From here on, we'll repeat the half double crochet and single crochet rows for a total of 11 sets, and I'll meet you back here once we're done with that portion. Your last row should be a single crochet row. Once you've completed all your rows, you should have one very long panel. Fold it in half widthwise and place a stitch marker at the top corner. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that due to the nature of the half double crochet stitch, it does slant slightly if you work in one direction. So you will see your panel begin to slant a little to one side, and that's completely normal. To start our alpine rows, we'll chain 1 and turn our work. On that first stitch, go ahead and work 1 half double crochet. On the second stitch, you'll find that post on the previous row and work a double crochet front post stitch. On the third stitch, just bend the double crochet stitch forward and you will be able to see the third stitch. Now we'll repeat the front post double crochet stitch followed by the half double crochet stitch in rotation, and we'll repeat this pattern until we've reached the stitch marker. So I just work my way down until the stitch marker. We'll remove the stitch marker and work a half double crochet stitch. We'll be working the half double crochet stitch like we did on the previous row on each stitch all the way across. And don't forget to return the stitch marker back to the center point. Once you've reached your last stitch, chain 1 and turn your work. Now we'll be working the single crochet stitch all the way across, passing the stitch marker until the end of this row. Now I've just reached the other end of this row. My next row will be the alpine rows. So now the first stitch will always be a half double crochet, and the second stitch will be determined by the previous alpine row. So here I have a double crochet front post stitch, which means I'll have to work the opposite of that stitch. So I'll work another half double crochet stitch. My third stitch here is a regular half double crochet, which means I'll work a front post double crochet stitch along that post. I'll continue working the half double crochet stitch on top of the previous front post double crochet stitch, and I'll work a front post double crochet stitch on the next half double crochet stitch on the previous row. We'll continue working the Alpine stitch until the stitch marker, followed by the set of half double crochet and single crochet rows for a total of 5 rows, and I'll meet you back here once we're done. So I've just completed working on 5 sets of rows, ending on a single crochet row, and I've placed the stitch marker on the 20th stitch from the first stitch marker on the front panel. Now I'll continue with my Alpine rows, and I'll stop 3 stitches before the second stitch marker. Once you've completed all your rows and you have 2 stitches remaining, we'll remove that stitch marker and work 2 half double crochets together. This will form the neckline and create a decrease. Once you've completed the half double crochet 2 together, chain 1, turn your work, and work single crochet stitches all the way across. So I've just worked another set of Alpine rows all the way up, but I've stopped here on the third last stitch. So just like before, we'll work a half double crochet 2 together decrease on the last 2 stitches. We'll chain 1 and turn our work. So from here, we'll be repeating the Alpine decrease rows for a total of 5 rows, and I'll meet you back here at the end of your last row. So I just finished my front panel on the right, as well as a decreased neckline that we made earlier, ending on the Alpine row. Now for the next step, we'll continue building this cardigan by joining that last stitch marker that we placed at the back. Now we'll insert a hook at the stitch marker. We'll draw up a loop and chain 1 to secure. Now on the next row, we'll continue working half double crochet stitches on each stitch all the way across. And we'll be repeating the half double crochet and single crochet sets of rows for a total of 15 rows. And don't forget to return that stitch marker back on that last stitch. And I'll meet you back here once we're all done. Now we've just finished the back portion of the neckline, ending on a single crochet row. For the next step, we'll be working on the left front panel, starting from the decrease rows. And then we will be joining them all the way up to the back of the neckline. So go ahead and count the number of stitches you have on that last row of the decrease Alpine row and work up the same number of chains. Once you've completed all your chains, we'll chain once more to start the next row. On the second chain from your hook, go ahead and work a half double crochet stitch and on each chain all the way across. Once you've reached that last stitch, go ahead and work 2 half double crochet stitches on that last stitch to start an increase row. Now you'll chain 1, turn your work, and work single crochet stitches. Go ahead and work the single crochet all the way till the end, and I'll meet you back here to work on the Alpine rows. On your last stitch, you'll chain 1 and turn your work. Now for this row, we're working Alpine rows. You know this pattern already. We'll work a half double crochet on that first stitch, followed by a front post double crochet stitch, and we'll be alternating between the half double crochet and the front post double crochet all the way until that last stitch, and I'll meet you back here at the end of this row. And once you've reached that last stitch, go ahead and work 2 half double crochets regardless of what stitch you made on the previous stitch. You'll chain 1, turn your work, and repeat the last 2 sets of Alpine increase rows for a total of 5 rows. Once you've completed the increased neckline on your left panel, we'll now want to join this to the body. You'll be making the same number of chains as you did on the right panel, so go ahead and work up a total of 20 chains from the last stitch. Now we'll want to join these chains to the back panel. So we'll bring the back panel closer to us. And from our chains, we'll just remove our hook and insert a hook into that last stitch of the back panel. And we'll pull through the loop from our chains. Now we'll go straight into working a single crochet into that first chain and all the way down. Make sure that your chain in your work is not twisted before starting this row. Once you've worked your way down the chains, continue working single crochet stitches on each stitch on the left side of the panel all the way down. You'll chain 1, turn your work, and continue working the Alpine stitches all the way across until you've reached the chain row. So I've just worked my way all the way up until the last Alpine stitch, and there isn't any Alpine stitches to make. I'll just be working regular half double crochet stitches on each of this single crochet stitch until I've reached the end of this row. Once you've reached that last stitch, go ahead and place a stitch marker on that last stitch. This would be the stitch just before joining into the back body panel. Now you'll continue working your half double crochet stitch all the way until the end of this row. You'll chain 1, turn your work, and work single crochet stitches all the way across until the end of the Alpine row, and I'll meet you back here once we're back at the top of the next Alpine row. From my last stitch, I'll just continue working the Alpine row. Here I have my half double crochet. I'll work my next front post double crochet through the next stitch and a half double crochet on the next, and I'll repeat this pattern all the way across until I reach the stitch marker. And then from here, I'll just repeat the half double crochet and single crochet rows. I'll work my way all the way down, and I'll continue repeating these rows for a total of 5 more rows, similarly to what we did on the other side. Then you go straight into completing the half double crochet and single crochet rows with the same number of rows as you did on this side. And I'll meet you back here once we're done. Once you've completed all your rows, fold your body panel in half and place a stitch marker at the top of the fold. Next, you'll place another 2 stitch markers on the 27th stitch at the top and bottom of the body panel from the first stitch marker. This will be your arm opening. Now you'll insert your hook through that first stitch marker on the front body panel. You will remove that stitch marker and draw up a loop. Chain 1 to secure. To work on the sleeves, I'll be working a total of 65 chains. Once you've reached that last chain, You'll chain once more to start the next row. Now we'll work 10 single crochet stitches, and we'll place a stitch marker back on that last stitch. We'll continue working single crochet stitches along the chains, and I'll meet you back here once we've reached that last chain. Once you've completed all your single crochet stitches and you're at your last chain, find the next stitch on the body panel and work 3 slip stitches. We'll turn our work. We'll skip the previous 3 slip stitches that we made earlier and go straight into a half double crochet. Now let's work half double crochet stitches on each stitch all the way across, and I'll meet you back here once we're at the stitch marker. Now for this row, we'll be working on the cuffs, so the stitch will be slightly different. We'll be working on the back loop of the next stitch. So go ahead and insert your hook through that loop furthest away from you and work a slip stitch. Make sure while you're working your slip stitch to pull the loop slightly higher and to work looser stitches, and continue to slip stitch to the back loop of each stitch all the way across, and I'll meet you back here once we're done. On your last stitch, chain 1, turn your work and find that V-shaped loop of the next stitch and continue working 10 more slip stitches for the cuffs, and remember not to pull the loops too tightly. Then return the stitch marker back onto the 10th stitch and work your single crochet stitch all the way across the sleeves. On that last stitch, find the next stitch on the body panel and work 3 slip stitches. We'll turn our work, and just like before, we'll skip the 3 slip stitches and go straight into a half double crochet. So we'll be repeating the last 2 rows of half double crochet stitches and slip stitches, followed by slip stitches and single crochet stitches all the way until the first and last stitch marker, and I'll meet you back here once we're all done. So once you've completed all your rows, making sure that your last row is on the single crochet row, and now depending on which side you're currently facing, you will fold your work wrong side out. Now from the last stitch, we'll insert our hook into that first stitch on the other side and pull up the loop. And from here, we'll be seaming both panels together with a single crochet. So insert your hook through the first stitch and through the back loop of the second panel and work a single crochet. We'll do this for the first 10 stitches, and then on the 11th stitch onwards, we'll just work regular single crochet stitches on the front and back panel all the way across until the end of the row. Once you've reached the underarm portion, we'll be seaming the sides of the body panel together the same way. So go ahead and go straight into working single crochet stitches on both panels together, and I'll meet you back here once we're done. So I've just completed one side of my body panel. This is how your sleeves should look like, all nice and finished on the right side. So now that you know how to work up this side, go ahead and work up the sleeves on the other side. Once both sleeves and seams are completed, we will now add the edging to the front. Did you know that it is traditional for women to have their buttons sewn on their left side? In this case, I will also start working on the left side of the front panel first and work my way all the way up and around the neckline. You insert your hook into that last stitch at the bottom of the front left panel and chain 1 to secure. Now we'll work 8 chains. You'll chain once more to start the next row, and on the next row we'll work single crochet stitches on each stitch all the way across. Once we've completed all 8 stitches, we'll find the next stitch on the body panel and work a slip stitch. We'll work 2 more slip stitches up and turn our work. Next, you'll skip the previous 3 slip stitches and work a back loop half double crochet stitch on the next stitch. This will be the loop furthest away from you. You'll continue to work 7 more half double crochet stitches through the back loop of this row, and I'll meet you back here on the last stitch. You'll chain 1, turn your work, and then this row will be working single crochet through the back loop. So we'll insert a hook through the loop furthest away from you and work a single crochet. You'll continue to work single crochet stitches through the back loop all the way across. And once you've reached that last stitch, go ahead and work 3 slip stitches up through the body panel. You'll turn your work, and from here on, we'll just be repeating the last 2 rows that we did. On this row, we'll be working the half double crochet through the back loop, followed by a single crochet back loop stitch. And we'll be repeating this pattern all the way across until we've reached the end of this front panel. Once we've reached all the way up until the neckline, we'll want to go straight into the row side. So this will be a sharp turn. So from our last stitch, we'll go straight into the top part of the row side and work 3 slip stitches. And we'll turn our work and continue from the last step that we worked on. In this case, I'll be working the half double crochet through the back loop. Now continue this pattern all the way around the neckline, and I'll meet you back here once we've reached the top of the neckline. So here I've just completed my neckline all the way to the top. Now I'll just place a stitch marker to hold on to my last stitch. Now I'll want to place my buttons evenly along the left panel in order for me to determine where I should be making the buttonholes on the other side. So I will first place a button at the top and at the bottom, and then I will distribute the other 2 or 3, depending how many buttons you like to place, evenly between the first and the last button. And once I've determined where I want to place my buttons, I'll place stitch markers in the center of where the button sits. Once I have my stitch markers in place, I'll now align the other panel and place stitch markers on the opposite side. Now let's go ahead and attach the buttons to our left panel. You can use any sewing needle of choice. Here I'm using a tapestry needle, and make sure your needle fits through the buttonhole. Now go ahead and thread your needle and sew the button next to your stitch marker. And once you've sewed on your button, go ahead and snip off your yarn and tie 2 knots to secure. Now you'll do this for the remaining buttons. Once you've completed all buttons, go ahead and continue working on the edging all the way across until you've reached that first stitch marker on the other panel. To start my buttonhole, I will first work 3 single crochet stitches through the back loop. Next, I'll be working a chainless single crochet stitch. So here, I'm inserting my hook into that back loop. I'll drop a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. That's my first stitch. Let's do that again. I'll insert my hook through that back loop. I'll drop a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops. And I'll do that one more time. I'll insert my hook through the back loop, pull through a loop, yarn over, and work my single crochet. So this is my 3 chainless single crochet stitches. Next, I'll skip the next 3 stitches and go straight into a single crochet back loop on the remaining stitches. You may need to adjust the buttonhole depending on your button size. Once I've completed all my stitches on this row, I'll go straight into working 3 slip stitches on the body panel. So there we have our first buttonhole. And don't forget to go and check your button and see if it fits nicely to your button. Now for the next row, we'll go straight into the half double crochet back loop on each stitch all the way across. And we'll repeat the half double crochet and single crochet back loop stitch until we've reached the next stitch marker, and then from there you'll work your chainless single crochet stitch. I'll meet you back here once we're all done with our buttonholes. So once you've completed all the rows on your front panel, we will now turn to the bottom edging. Now from your last stitch, go ahead and chain 5. Chain 1 to start the next row. Now we'll single crochet each chain, and then we'll insert a hook into that next stitch and work a slip stitch. Now slip stitch 2 more times and turn your work. And then from here, we'll be working a half double crochet back loop stitch all the way across. On that last stitch, chain 1 and turn your work. Now we'll basically be repeating the last 2 rows of back loop single crochet and back loop half double crochet stitches on each stitch all the way across until we've reached the end of the row. So we have basically just completed the entire cardigan, and now for the inner pockets. I worked up a total of 18 stitches for the height and 6 sets of single crochet and half double crochet rows for the width. Then I added 2 rows of single crochet stitches on one side for a sturdier entry point. Just so you know, this cardigan was made in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I wanted to include some inner pockets for post-surgery drains. Otherwise, they also work great for keys, cards, and or your phone. And once you've completed a pocket, don't forget to leave a long tail for sewing around the sides. Now find the middle point of your front panel on the wrong side and place stitch markers on each corner to secure. Now you'll thread your needle and turn your work to the side that you'll be working on and pinch 2 pieces together like this to start sewing. I'm using a whip stitch to sew along each side. And also on that first stitch, I'm working 2 or 3 stitches just to secure the entry point of the pocket. So go ahead and work your way down to each corner of the pocket, bind off, and make another piece on the other side. Do you want to hear a funny story? I had to buy one more skein for this cardigan and actually bought the wrong color, hence the contrast. Thankfully, it was only for the inner pockets. And once you're done seaming the pockets, it should be invisible on the front side. And that is it. Did you find this tutorial helpful? Show me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to click that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. And finally, if you haven't gotten yourself checked, please do so no matter what age you are right now. I'm glad I did. Happy Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and see you soon!